Would guidance from an expert help you to grow your business or career? Or do you seek inspiration for you or your kids? If so, welcome. Behind the Words TV gives you that one-on-one time with famous and emerging authors or content creators. They'll take you where you want to go. Behind the Words TV, right now. Is there a book inside of you? Is there a struggling author inside of you that wants to come out and share your information with the world? If so, you are in the right place, because today's episode of Behind the Words TV is just for you. Hi, I'm Paul Madsen, host of the program and author of Men Grieve Too. And I'm so excited because today, in studio at KPAO TV, we have none other than Lisa Pelto. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks
I'm
for having
so
me.
glad you're here. Lisa is the president of Concierge Marketing here in Omaha, and book publishing, excuse me. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, it's a wonderful company we're going to learn a lot more about. Lisa, I'm going to jump right in. What business are you in?
Well, I am in the business of helping everyday people publish their stories and their information and publish it either to their sphere of interest or larger audience up to international, and create a beautiful published book.
A beautiful published book. That's the bottom line. We have a few today to talk about, of course. I am familiar with your services, and tell me, what kinds of books do you publish?
We do lots of different things. We're doing a ton of children's books these days. We've, over the pandemic, I think everybody wanted to realize their dream of publishing, so they wrote their children's book. Some of them painted their own paintings and things. I don't know if you want me to hold up anything.
Not yet, but yeah, wow.
A lot of people wrote their novels. People wrote their memoirs.
So people were closed in for the pandemic.
Were closed in.
They took up pen in hand.
Yep, we're calling it their lockdown legacy.
I love it.
We also have a lot of family books, just
Okay.
that are maybe 12 or 50, books that came out during the time.
Interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about that. The pandemic would make people become more turn their inner writer loose. But yeah, well, Lisa, you take a writer from bottom to top to get them from the mind to market. Why should an author use your services?
My personal philosophy is that the authors should retain they always have the copyright, but they should also retain the publishing rights as often as possible. The publishing system that has always been around, the traditional publishing model, is not the only one that's successful these days. So it used to be where people would look at self-publishing as a last resort, and now a lot of people are looking at it as the most profitable one, and the one that lets them have creative and editorial control.
Wonderful. So you turn them into their very own publishing company, keeping control of all this intellectual property and so on.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like a good venture, and it sounds like what authors need. If you have an author inside of you struggling to get out, consider Concierge Marketing and book publishing. And thank you for joining us on this segment of Behind the Words TV. Hi, I'm Paul Madsen, back with Chapter 1 of Behind the Words TV. Today we are visiting with Lisa Pelto, President of Concierge Marketing and Book Publishing Service. Hi again, Lisa.
Hi.
Hey, we need to. Hey, you bet. Put her there. We need to talk about so many things. We're going to jump right in with first we talked about the idea that you have. You help authors create their own little tiny publishing companies. Well, let's back up from that. Okay. I'm a verbose person, and I have all these notebooks and napkins with ideas written on them. I think I'm profound. I think this should go to the market. I think the world needs to see my stuff. Mm-hmm. What do I do next?
Get it into the computer somehow.
Okay.
Either we do that, sometimes like right now, I have a 400-page handwritten prison memoir.
Handwritten
prison
memoir.
It has to be.
Is it written on
transcribed.
toilet paper? No.
Nope,
Okay.
notepad with codes.
Okay.
Break me out of here.
Let me out.
Right. People put it on all kinds of things. Sometimes they have old books that were on typewriters, and we get those into the computer. But for the most part, it eventually has to get into the computer. From that point, we will assess the book to see what kind of editing it needs. Sometimes it always needs editing.
Yeah.
Sometimes things need developmental editing, and sometimes they need just a copy edit if they're have been edited in some way or with someone else. And then we move into sometimes picture editing. Like they'll give us 3,500 pictures and we need 50.
I'm going to back up on the copy editing thing, because I think that's an important thing. I mean, I'm a first-time author. I've never published anything before. I've never written anything before. And I've got all this stuff I'm throwing out there. And you've done a couple of these across the years we'll talk about.
Just a few.
I mean, how do you work with an author who is needing to be trimmed and focused? I mean, most of them aren't focused enough, are they?
Sometimes that is a problem. We have that conversation very early.
Okay.
And
you smack them around and tell them the reality right away. Huh? Good.
We don't really work with people that won't be edited in some way, because we don't want to encourage the publication of something that's not high quality.
Right. So you teach them up front what needs to be done.
And sometimes it's not usually that hard to show them things that are irrelevant or repeated. Or
do they? But isn't that book their baby, and they push back on you or not?
Yes. We tell them that they're going to have to kill their darling.
Oh, yeah. That's a good phrase. You have to kill your darlings.
Right.
Kill your babies. Yep.
Yeah. So sometimes we'll get a manuscript that's 200,000 words, it needs to be 80,000 words, and that's a painful editing process. But for the most part, people just repeat things and they don't realize it. So we do some reorganization. Sometimes we take chapters out, we lay them out on the conference room table or the floor, depending on how big it is, and just kind of pick what's relevant and what's not. Because a lot of times people will put things in that are only relevant to them, that they don't flow the story.
Well, and I mean, there is that. I know the backstory and the real, especially on maybe the biography type things or the family legacy ones. And they may leave stuff out that they don't tell the whole story, and so it doesn't mean anything to a reader. Now, you find those traps, right? Those speed bumps?
We do, and in a lot of instances, we'll hire an outside editor so they can work directly with that person. It depends on the type of book it is.
Okay.
I mean, we've had things where we did one where there was, it was written from the point of view of a cat about Shakespeare. And so and it was written in Old English. So I had
an Old English speaking cat.
And I found 8 editors that applied that knew Old English, owned a cat, and knew Shakespeare. And
talk about a niche.
It was very niche.
Left-handed dentist that practice only in Canada or something.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, every book is a niche. I mean, there is a niche for every book. Right. We just have to find it.
And we'll talk about that. So you kill their darlings, you lay out, you have the speech up front that, Bob, this is all well and good, but, it's worthless to the reader, or you don't put it that way, of course. But I mean, I think people need to hear that because they don't really understand what's readable. They've read many books, but they don't understand what's readable in a book.
Right. Well, there are a lot of people that write books that haven't read a book since 8th grade. Those are the bigger problems.
I suppose, yeah. Interesting.
But we'd also help them establish what they're trying to achieve. So if it's a family memoir and they have 200,000 words and they want all that stuff in there, fine, we do that. But if it's for public consumption and it's going up on Amazon or through other channels that are for an audience that don't necessarily care, what they had for breakfast on February 13th.
It's 20 years ago.
Right, right. A family might care about that, but it's not relevant to the story.
Now, you have a memoir with you. Let's see it.
This is a family legacy piece.
Family legacy, okay.
Yep.
And this is an example of a product that you created with and for a family.
For the family, yep.
And,
so it just is.
Looks very thick.
It's very thick.
And so this took
Yep.
you more than a couple weeks to put together.
This was almost a year to do the editing, find all the pictures. So I will admit that we had quite a few long breakfasts when we could have had 10-minute meetings.
Yes, yes.
Because she's a good cook.
Yeah, well,
but I get to
apparently
know-
they are articulate, yes.
Yes. I mean, I get to know all of the authors very well because it's really an intimate business where,
Sure.
we're
So that's an
talking about their
example
life.
of a family that had a story, and all families have a story,
Mm-hmm.
and that they came to you and said, we want this in a book format,
Mm-hmm.
and what did you do next? You did the editing thing, and what else happens next?
Well, we did the editing, and we also had long conversations about what we were trying to achieve date-wise.
Oh, okay.
That was very important in this because it was for a specific anniversary
Okay.
party, and they were going on a trip. So
Okay.
he also had, we had quite a few meetings on what we wanted it to look like, how we wanted it to feel and that. So that was, it was a fun project, and I got to work with his whole family.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
got to know his,
Sure.
his wife.
So
and
you get it all, I mean, that's a huge amount of work to
Yeah.
get that many pages organized, pictures and copy and editing and all that. We're talking about from mind to marketplace. What is the next step for after you get it in an approved format?
find the right printing solution. So sometimes, like for this gentleman, he wanted a fine-looking product, so I had to find a printer that would print a very high-quality book, and only 50 of them.
Okay.
That's possible.
No, and that's it, yeah.
Yeah, that's possible.
Well, I love what you said. I find the right printing solution. I mean, for the books I've written, Amazon's print-on-demand KDP is the way to go because they're for the masses. But something like that is very narrow and very niche, and so with your vast printing background and publication production background, you know where to go, right?
Right. It's very important to know the right place to go because a book manufacturer is not a regular printer.
No.
Printers are in the business of printing, so
Sure.
they're not going to turn anything down.
Sure. Well, as we
only-
wrap this segment up, Lisa, give me an example of a more of a mass appeal book that you've done. Someone, you had the meeting with them up front. You talked about what's needed. You figured out where they're going. You figured out the printing solution. I mean, give us an example of somebody's out there who in the masses that you've worked with.
Well, this is the one I brought. We have several, but this is a second edition or second book in the series from Mark Langan, who did Busting Bad Guys. Now this is the More Busting Bad Guys.
More.
A lot of the stories from this came from people approaching him from the first book saying, this is the rest of the story. So this
wow.
finishes out a lot of the
Interesting.
stories.
Okay.
And some of them that were not told in
So
the
these
first
are kind of based on truth and that kind of thing.
So we
He's
designed
a
his...
policeman. You didn't mention that, I don't
Oh,
think.
yeah, he's a 26-year Omaha police veteran.
So he's
and-
seen a few stories, right?
Yes, he has.
Okay.
But we designed a system where he didn't have to use the Amazon all the time. He has one system for that, but it is open so we can print it however he needs for whatever he's sold.
Well, because he sells a lot independently
Yep.
too, as well. Well, that just kind of shows you, I think, that the variety of solutions that Lisa and her company brings to the table, and people can, if they need, that cocktail napkin, to the editing, to the print solution for 50 books, or the print solution for 5,000 books. I think Lisa, in fact, knows the right answer. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about this in another segment. That's your wrap up of From Mind to Marketplace with Lisa Pelto of Concierge Marketing. Welcome back to Chapter 2 of Behind the Words TV. Today with Lisa Pelto of Concierge Marketing. Hi again, Lisa.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hey, we've been talking about the idea of how to get my book from a cocktail napkin to Amazon Marketplace. And there's a lot of steps in that process, aren't there?
There are.
Yeah, well, have you ever charted out how many steps there are?
Just in the compliance stage, there's 100.
100 steps.
100 tasks.
Wow,
Yes.
that's a lot of compliance. Well, people don't understand that and don't realize that. There's a lot of holes to step into and fall over and speed bumps along the way, right? Well, that's what I want to talk about in this section somewhat, is that, what are the mistakes? What happens? I mean, you must hear plenty of authors who say, "Oh yeah, Lisa's there, but I can do this myself. It's all online. Amazon tells me how to do all this, or many other thousands of printing options." But what happens when that happens? What mistakes do people commonly make that you see over and over?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest one is getting talked into printing a large quantity these days.
I laugh because I have a person I know who, actually more than one, who, what I'm going to say, their garage has lots of boxes of books.
Yes, it's very sad. And today you don't need to do that. So we control that a little bit on our end. The inventory control is very important because you are embarking on a business, and that's I guess the biggest mistake is that people don't see it as a business.
Okay.
They think, oh, my baby, I'm going to get it out into the marketplace and everybody's going to love it. They're going to line up outside the door.
Yeah. They're going to line up outside my garage to buy those books in the garage.
Exactly. So they don't think of it as a business, so they make kind of bad decisions on the money part of it because they're letting the creative side of themselves
take over
and make those decisions.
Well, that's a huge step, though, because again, well, you might explain what print on demand is briefly.
Print on demand is pretty simple if you break it down into the words. It means it is printed when it is sold, when it is demanded.
Sure. So I order this book on Amazon. You mean Amazon doesn't have 1,000 copies sitting on a shelf and they just pull it off and send it to me?
No,
they don't.
None of the books we have anymore have regular inventory systems with Amazon. If they have a quantity of them, it's because they sell in person.
Well, and
these days.
and that's important, right?
Well, when you print a large quantity, people don't think about it. There's other expenses. You have to have inventory control. You have to have a place to store it, insure it, climate control, all that stuff. So
shipping
and going to the post office and all that. Plus, you don't have the same distribution opportunities as you used to have prior to the print-on-demand system coming in. You used to have a wholesaler or distributor that you could easily access. Not so much anymore, and you don't need them.
Well, and that's that's a huge change.
It is.
Because, I'll make it really brief. When my first book, 2001, Laid Off and Loving It, Amazon was not print on demand at the time, and I found a printer in Iowa to print very small quantities, again, cost-oriented. So they would send me 25. Amazon would send me an email that said, please send us 2 copies.
Right.
And so I'm in the post office to get the books, and then I'm in the post office line again to send the books, and I'm going, there has to be a better way.
Right.
Fortunately, one was invented.
Right. Well, people get sucked into the per unit cost is going to be so much better if I buy a bunch.
Yeah. I don't know who tells them that.
They aren't adding in the additional costs when they're thinking about the unit cost, and they need to.
Right. Well, and you mentioned the storage, the insurance, the climate control. Their garage doesn't have, maybe a little humid or something.
Books love to absorb odors.
Oh my.
Moisture. Okay. Pests.
Oh, sure.
You
got to think about this before you order those 4 crates, right?
Right.
What other mistakes do people make?
Not editing.
Okay.
Doing a poor job, doing their own cover in their basement. Self-publishing does not mean DIY.
Okay.
And people often equate those two.
Mm-hmm.
It does not mean you have to create your own cover. It does not mean you have to do all your own editing or your sister's cousin's best friend's brother.
He took one class in graphic design.
He got an A in English.
Oh yeah.
In high school.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. So not editing is probably really it's disrespectful to your manuscript not to have it edited.
Well,
I think. The cover.
What's the difference between proofing and editing?
At our shop, editing is done in manuscript. That's in a Microsoft Word document that is, you can move things around and actually hack the manuscript apart, reorganize it. When you're proofing, again, at our shop, proofing is done in galley form, which is when it's in book form. And that's a lot different than, an 8.5 by 11 manuscript.
Right.
Because in books, you want them to start and end at the, same.
It's got to look like a book.
Has to look like
I think
a book.
that's something you taught me. It needs to look like a book.
Right, exactly.
There's millions of books out there, and let's make it fit in.
Right. I think the other big mistake is that people spend all their money in the production part, and they don't reserve some for marketing.
and we'll have a segment on marketing.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that there because yes, that is what I've seen as well.
Yeah.
Why do you think we have books behind the words TV?
Right, exactly.
So yes, well, okay, cover, people, I mean, they think they can design it themselves. How important is a cover to a book?
It's everything. It's your product design. It is, I think the mentality of people, they think a book cover is, something easy. It's something that, that is anybody could do, but it is a static design. So it's not like a brochure, or a business card or something that if there was something wrong with it or it didn't work quite right, you could redesign it really easily.
Yeah.
With a book cover, it's evergreen. It needs to be static design. Business cards, brochures are dynamic designs.
Okay.
They can change.
Okay.
You have to love it. It is your product. So it's just like, if you pick up any product, like the design of this, what is that?
Yeah.
Without thinking about it, what it is. It's an eyewear.
Well, yeah, and you don't want to change the image of your cover once you've put it out there as well, because with the internet, everything's propagated everywhere forever, right?
Exactly, it is. And I mean, it's just like if you look at a Coke bottle, it's a Coke bottle. If you look at a Sharpie, it's a Sharpie. The logo, the shape of the Sharpie,
Right.
you know what things are by the general look. So
Right.
if you do all this marketing and it's something that you change later on, then they've got in their heads, they might have seen it
there's
6
confusion.
times. Yeah.
People need a simple approach. And,
Yeah.
well, on that same vein, address the whole concept of thumbnail.
That's the other thing is it's going to be this big. And
Especially on a phone.
3/4 of an inch
Really
tall
tiny
is
on a phone, right, yeah.
a tiny thumbnail. And we had this conversation when we did your book. When I'm designing, I'm shrinking it down to an inch tall or 3/4 of an inch tall before I make a decision on a typeface.
Yeah,
Or an image.
Because people really, that's their darling too, isn't it? The cover and how it should look and all that.
Absolutely.
And then you tell them, that's all complex and good and beautiful, but how's it going to look when it's this tall?
Yeah. I mean, there's some groundbreaking design out there. Sometimes they don't even put the title or the author's name on the book these days.
Oh, wow.
And that has also run its course a little bit.
Oh my. 30 seconds, any other last mistakes you want to talk about that people make?
I think the biggest mistake is not thinking of it as a business. And it's not, I talked about this before, but it is a business. You need to have a business plan with finance, product development, marketing, and operations all figured out prior to publishing your book.
That's too much work. I just want to write a book and have people beat a path to my door.
Well, then you need to call me.
Okay. All right. That's a great ending point for this segment regarding what mistakes are made on Behind the Words TV with Lisa Pelto of Concierge Marketing. We'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to Chapter 3 of Behind the Words TV with Lisa Pelto of Concierge Marketing and Book Publishing. Welcome back, Lisa.
Thank you.
Hey, we've had some great talks. I wanted to talk about my special book. Lisa, I've written actually 5 books, but my book is special. It's my story. It's my information. I'm unique in all the world, and people are just going to beat a path to my door. My book is so great and so beautiful that my book is for everybody.
Right.
Your reaction?
Well, no book is for everybody. Because what I always ask people is, do you buy everyone's book?
Oh, I do. I buy
Right.
everyone's book. Check out my living
So
room.
you have 160 million books
I
in your
do.
living
Yes,
room.
yes, I do. It's a big house.
Right.
But you're right. No, I don't buy everyone's book.
Yeah. People buy genres. So if you're looking...
Genre. Explain what genre is.
A segment of the book publishing or really music or
A niche,
art or
yeah.
some sort of a niche.
Right.
So people have a tendency to, if they like true crime, they buy lots of true crime. If they like romance novels, they buy lots of romance novels. In fact, a lot of romance readers will read 300 books a year.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Wow, that's a genre.
They're very voracious. Children that like to read chapter books, they're voracious readers, but they usually do tend to choose a certain kind of book as well. And I'm talking
Do you
about
have any
children.
examples of niche books here? I mean, children's books are obviously niches for children.
All of them are niche.
Okay.
So
tell us what that means.
here's what a test I usually use. So people that think their book is for everyone, right? So demographically, we might be similar, right? We live in the same town. We, have the same similar education, similar age. You're a dude and I'm a lady, but
there's several overlaps, right?
Married, children, and all that. But psychographically is your interests, your beliefs, your values, your morals, your hobbies, things like that. So you might have totally different hobbies. We're similar demographically, which you can find on a list at InfoUSA or wherever. Psychographically, it's harder because then it's their psyche, what they like.
Their
and
values,
that's where genre,
their beliefs.
Yeah,
and all
that's
that.
where genre comes into play. Things that are of interest to them at the time they're in the market for a book.
Well, describe subgenres. I mean, if you look at Amazon, there's, I'm the bestseller in that category, but that category is like 17 subgenres down. And a quick example, and we only have a little time, is, I like bicycling. Well, do I want a bike about beach cruiser bicycle, electric bicycle, if so, on-road or off-road electric bicycle, and so it just goes on and on, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. We have travel memoirs that we're doing right now. You would think that they're similar, but they're completely different. They both went across the world.
Okay.
Pretty much one is a woman that went across the world working for World Health Organization. Another guy was going to a wedding.
And they're both a
Corey
travel
Mortensen.
memoir.
So he rode his bike across the United
Wow.
States. So he would be targeting people who like bike travel as well. So you never know on
sure.
that.
Well, I'm an author. I have a book idea. How do you help me dial down my niche so it's going to be? I mean, I've heard the thing about if sometimes the narrower your niche is, the more you'll sell because you sell to everybody in that niche as opposed to a big niche where you won't sell to anybody.
There's riches and niches.
Riches and niches, right?
Yep.
How do I pick my niche in 15 seconds?
Most of the time you are your niche. So you look at how you get information and how you find out about new books and new information. How do you consume information? Do you just read newspapers, magazines, watch TV, read blogs, podcasts, and things like that?
Sure.
Or do you look for a book?
And which ones, right?
Yep.
Well, that's a very quick overview. You'll need to talk to Lisa in more detail about how to pick your niche. There's niches in riches, and remember that, and drill down deep. So that's just been lots of fun with Lisa Pelto of Concierge Marketing, and I'm Paul Madsen. Thanks for joining us on this segment of Behind the Words TV.